The focus of this study is to investigate the position of technology in Cambridge CELTA online courses. The idea of conducting this study came to me during the pandemic, the COVID pandemic. We have all experienced those days that we all had to work online. All institutions had to deliver their courses, their training, their teaching online. So CELTA was one of them, and the fully online version of CELTA was introduced during the pandemic. So this idea came to my mind to investigate the effectiveness of CELTA Online and see how technology can be important during online courses. So I conducted this qualitative case study, and I investigated the course, the CELTA Online course, from different perspectives. In order to have a framework for this study, I have decided to use activity theory. What is activity theory? For those of you who might not be familiar with activity theory, this theory is quite well known in education, and it gives us a very clear understanding of learning systems. So in the literature, if you take a look at the literature, you will see that this is one of the well-known theories. And although it's not really easy to implement different components of activity theory, but the outcome is quite interesting. So I decided to use activity theory and analyze CELTA online course to figure out how we can identify problems, contradictions, and how we can develop the courses. Activity theory is shown by triangles, and this is one triangular diagram which shows different elements of this theory. A little bit I need to talk about the theory because it's necessary to understand later when I'm going to talk about contradictions about the CELTA course, online course. So activity theory is all about these 7 elements of a learning system. As you can see, it's tools, one of them, then subject, then rules, community, division of labor, object, and outcome. So as you can see, all these 7 elements are connected, and in a learning system, all of them have different roles which need to be considered and analyzed in order to have a picture of a learning system. So this theory is giving us an understanding of how the system works, what are the problems, which we call them contradictions, and how we can develop a learning system. These are 7 components that I briefly talked about. The subject, in our case, CELTA courses. The subjects in one of the systems that I managed to analyze are our candidates or trainees. The tools, there are a lot of tools that we use in online courses, the computer, internet, online websites, course books, ebooks are all tools. Object, depending on which activity system we are dealing with, is basically to learn how, the principles of teaching and receiving the certificate, CELTA certificate. The outcome, they're people who participate in CELTA courses. They plan to be teachers in the future. Rules, there are a lot of rules, Cambridge rules, center rules, community, people who are involved in CELTA courses, tutors, students, center managers, and Cambridge English team, also assessors, all part of the community. And the division of labor refers to how each member of community, what is the role of each member of community in this system. So using activity theory for this system requires to analyze each of these components. So what I did actually in this study, I analyzed each of them in order to figure out specifically what their roles are, what the rules are, and how they are working together, their interaction to have a clear idea of what's going on in this learning system. The question is, how can activity theory be used in CELTA systems? So that's a basic question I needed to answer. You see, there are some keywords here. Activity theory can be used to understand the process of change in a system. This is a very important phrase, actually, the process of change. Based on activity theory, any learning system is not static, and it's always in the process of change. So if we have this outlook, if this understanding that every system actually is in the process of change for the betterment of the system, then we can see that we can always find ways in order to improve our systems. So this is basically one of the reasons that I chose activity theory, because it always looks for ways, strategies to make the systems better. The activity theory framework provides a systematic analysis of changes and interactions. As I mentioned this before, the interaction between different elements, especially in a complex learning system like CELTA, is going to be very, very clear when we use activity theory. And also identifying learning system contradictions. So this is the most important aspect of activity theory, that we need to find contradictions in the system. Contradiction is not like a simple problem that there is a solution for. Contradiction is more complicated than a problem one person can find a solution for. That is why the whole activity system will help us to identify contradictions and then analyze contradictions and then find solutions for them. So for this reason, activity theory actually introduces 4 levels of contradictions: primary contradiction, secondary contradiction, tertiary contradictions, and quaternary contradictions. I'm not going to go into the details of this, theory, and because it might not be really interesting for some of you, but I just want to highlight that contradictions are very important in this activity theory, in this theory, and that is why part of my study was to identify contradictions, and I'm gonna talk about it in a few minutes. The method that I used in order to collect my data for the analysis, I conducted research by observing a CELTA fully online course. So I joined a CELTA course, online course, as a researcher, and I observed all the aspects of the course, all TPs, all feedback sessions. I use different methods. Later, I'm going to talk about them in order to talk to everybody, did interview all people, all the participants, and I collected enough data in order to make sure that my findings are reliable. 3 different instruments I use to collect my data: observation, all the sessions, live sessions, synchronous sessions. I interviewed all participants, candidates, tutors, managers, center managers, and students. And I also managed to analyze relevant documents that we use, CELTA documents and some center documents, everything that I believed was relevant and could help me. Actually, I used to collect my data. What I managed to come up with was 3 activity systems in our CELTA online courses. I labeled them like this. The first one is credentialized learning. This is basically the learning system for CELTA candidates or trainees. The second one, administrative support CELTA activity system, is for center managers. So the community of managers, center managers, is another activity system. And the third one, pedagogical support, is for the tutors activity system. In this presentation, I'm not going to talk about all of them because it's going to take time. I'm just going to focus on the first activity system, credentialized learning, which is it's all about the candidates in the course. What I have actually come up with is in credential learning activity system, what you see here is actually the outcome of this study. For the tools, as you can see, I have categorized all the tools. By tools, I mean Google Apps, CELTA platform, standards, assignments, CELTA 5 document, tutors, commons, and a lot more. I categorized them in 4 different groups. Tools to demonstrate progress, tools to demonstrate standard of practice, tools to understand course requirements, and tools to keep track of own progress, candidates' own progress. So this, categorization is just to make sure that all relevant tools are together for the better analysis. The subject is, as I said, CELTA candidates. Their object or their goal is to receive the certificate. I call this credentialized learning, and the outcome is to become a certified teacher. Various rules I managed to identify: Cambridge English responsibilities, rules for candidates, rules for using technology, and common sense rules. By common sense rules, I mean rules that we usually follow when we are online, like netiquette and all the rules that we really follow online. Community, Cambridge English team, center managers, assessors, tutors, candidates, center admin team, and students. And as you can see, their division of labor is their responsibility, like Cambridge English team, support centers or center managers actually manage courses, assessors evaluate courses, tutors train and evaluate candidates, and the rest. So this diagram shows these 7 components of activity theory with the data that I managed to identify and extract and analyze and put them under each category. Now, this rather complicated diagram is a combination of all the 7 elements that I just talked to you about, plus the contradictions that I managed to find in this system. It's a little bit complicated, so I try to use different colors to show different levels of contradiction: primary contradiction, secondary contradiction, and tertiary contradictions. Not really going to talk about all of them because it takes really long time. But what I found interesting and probably relevant to this session, I would like to talk about three contradictions that I found quite um, interesting from a research perspective, and I would like to share them with you. The first one, I labeled it like this: course delivery mode. So we know that online versus face-to-face teaching or training during the CELTA courses. CELTA online course, tries to prepare candidates for either teaching online or teaching face-to-face. So this is what Cambridge believe. This is what we believe, that our candidates, when they complete the course, they are ready to teach online, and also they're ready to teach face-to-face. But based on what I have found, this is more like preparing candidates for online teaching more than face-to-face teaching. There are some elements of face-to-face teaching that are not really, I couldn't find any good data during the online courses. I couldn't see that tutors could really train teachers for classroom management. By classroom management, I mean a face-to-face classroom management, or any other aspects, like if you are teaching a class with 10, 20 students and you need to remember their names, how are you going to do that? I could see that some candidates told me that when their course was over, they told me that they're not really ready to teach online, to teach face-to-face classes, but they feel really confident online. So this is something that we can consider, how to develop this online course in a way that our candidates, teach online and face-to-face confidently in both delivery modes. So this is one of the contradictions I found. The second one is learners' learning styles. We know that in ELT, learning style is something that we always highlight, and we believe that as an English teacher, you need to consider your students' learning style and prepare your lessons, your materials in a way that if your students have different learning styles, you consider them and help all of them. In online situations, this is not as easy as face-to-face classes. So number one problem was, it is not easy for teachers, for candidates, to identify students' learning style online, because the level of interaction, the level of communication really didn't let them, during the course that I observed, didn't let them identify students' learning style. So this is one side of the problem. The other side is that candidates are not really encouraged in online training, teacher training, to consider learning style in their planning when they're going to teach. And also, they were not really sure how to do this when it comes to lesson planning for online courses. So these are the things, these are the issues that I believe we need to consider. For face-to-face, we have a lot of strategies. We can consider this. We can make sure that what learning style our students have and how to trigger this. But in online courses, CELTA courses, this is one of the areas that, based on my finding, I think we need to consider a bit more. And the third one, I labeled it as technology transformation. We have CELTA standards, the ones that we use in our CELTA 5, but CELTA standards, although we believe that we can use the standards for both face-to-face and online situations, it seems that we need either some more standards only for online CELTA courses, or we need to kind of introduce some, only standards for CELTA online courses. Not different, but to consider the situations that online courses, teachers need to know. I have observed a lot of situations that, standards were just came from tutors, and different tutors have different understanding, opinions about their standards. So this contradiction that we need to have specific standard for specific online situations is another aspect of this study that I believe we can consider for the betterment of the courses. There were a lot more contradictions. I mean, I can talk about more contradictions, but I'm afraid my time doesn't really let me go for this. I just need to highlight that as I just showed you in this diagram, there are a lot of contradictions only in one activity system, which we call them credentialized learning. But this, finding contradiction is not a bad thing. It's not like a weakness we can consider. The other way around, actually, it is very effective. So if I want to put my study in a nutshell in one sentence, I would say that CELTA Online is very effective. This is what I receive from all participants in the course: tutors, students, candidates, managers. Very effective. But we need to work on it. We need to figure it out. We need to, based on what we have, experienced, make sure that how we can develop it in order to, consider everybody in the course. I remember like a few years ago when we didn't have to, during the pandemic, we had to work online. But before pandemic, technology was part of English lesson classrooms if teachers were willing to do it, willing to use them. If some teachers were not willing to use technology in their courses, in their classes, that was fine. So it was an option for them. But the position of technology nowadays on online courses, especially online teacher training courses, is not an option anymore. The course is conducted online. So that means everybody needs to have a basic technology competence in order to be able to be part of this courses. Otherwise, they cannot really come up with any ideas how to continue. I have observed in the course that I observed for this study that people who had really difficulty with technology, they really couldn't focus on elements of teaching. So using technology is really strong, had really strong effect on them. So as I said, it's very effective. I could see that a lot of teachers learned a lot, and they were really happy that they could take the course online. But on the other hand, we really need to focus on strategies to make it even better. So I think that was my presentation. I hope you enjoyed that. If by any chance you have any questions you believe I can answer, or you are interested in knowing more about the research, you can find me here. These are my emails, and I would be very happy to answer your questions. I'm sure there are some channels here also, like a forum, but in any case, these are my emails. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed the presentation. Thank you.